After beating Magnus Carlsen in the Armageddon, it was now time for Anish Giri in the 6th round of the Norway Chess. Vishy Anand in tremendous form. He's up against Anish, who is Dutch number 1, world number 10, and one of the finest players in the world. So let's have a look at the classical game first, and then we'll go to the Armageddon. So Anish with the white pieces opens with c4. Vishy goes c5, knight f3, knight f6, g3, d5. This time Anand goes right in the center, takes, bishop g2, knight to c6, knight c3, and g6. Here Anish goes a little bit aggressive. He plays the move h4. And this is a very common idea. Vishy plays h6 so as to meet h5 with g5. It's a typical plan in such positions. In this position, white went for castles. Maybe something better here could be d4. It's one possibility. And another idea could be to take, and then play d3 and so on. But he went for castles and bishop g7, and here d3 was played. This was the game Artemiev versus Carlsen, and here Carlsen had played the move bishop e6, and Anand also makes this move. This makes very good use of the pawn on h6. Now the knight cannot come to g5. Bishop d2. Notice that taking this pawn, free pawn, looks very juicy, but after rook b1, white gets great compensation for the pawn. So Anand went bishop e6, bishop d2, and now b6 by Magnus was a very good move that he played. In fact, Magnus lost that game that was played. It was an online game, but b6 is a very good move, and so is queen d7. Both are pretty good moves. But what Vishy did here is he played rook c8, which also looks very natural, but now falls for some kind of a tricky idea. So rook c1, and now the most natural move once again is b6. And this is where you can try to think a bit, what should white do here? Try to think. It's not a simple idea, but it's very nice. And in fact, I was surprised that in the post-game interview, Anand had actually seen it. So Anish played a3. This is a normal move, but the better move here was knight takes d5. Now, if you were to play queen takes d5, then in comes a very interesting move here. Try to think white to play, what to do. Knight to d4. Excellent move, hitting the queen. Now you need to take this, and in comes bishop c3. Now g7 is hanging. So queen d7 and bishop g7. This is problematic for black because after bishop h6, white has won a pawn. So knight d5, you must take with the bishop. And now, once again, white to move. What do you do here? So the move here is b4. Excellent move. Fantastic move. Now, there are two ways to capture. Let's say you take knight takes b4. Then in comes bishop b4, cb4, queen a4 check. You have to lose your castling rights, king f8. And after queen takes b4, it seems like white at least has a small edge because black has lost his castling rights. If b4 here, c takes b4 in this position, then this is a very nice move. Bishop h3 popping out and attacking the rook on c8, and after rook c7 is played, you go e4 in the position, and after bishop takes a2, there is queen a4, which is troublesome here, and let's say queen takes d3 is met with rook takes c6, so this doesn't work, and overall this is not a good position for black. So instead of rook c7, if you try to play something like bishop e6 back, then bishop takes e6, fe6 just spoils the structure entirely, and after bishop takes b4, white is completely better. So let's say knight takes b4 and queen a4 check, white is winning. So this idea with b4 sort of destabilizing this knight, opening up the c file and then popping out with bishop h3 is a very cool idea and something that is not very commonly seen, and you should keep in mind. Just so that you know, here b4 is an important move. You can't start with bishop h3 because then black would go bishop takes b2, and this is an exchange sacrifice he's ready to make after queen c8, and black is doing very well. Okay, so b6 was played here, a3, and now Vishy castled, knight d5, bishop d5, and b4, very typical, takes. And here we were all expecting Vishy to go solid. Queen d6 looked like a decent move. Also queen d7 seemed pretty okay. But Anand surprised many people, although he was not surprised with his decision. I mean, he defended it in the post-game interview as well. He took bishop f3 and knight d4. This is very concrete. Vishy is now threatening to spoil white structure with knight takes f3. So bishop e4 was played. This is also good move than bishop g2, because on e4 the bishop protects the d3 pawn, so that later when e3 is played, d3 is not very weak. Rook c1, bishop c1, queen to d6, bd2 played, and this is where Anand should have been a little more careful, and he saw it later that the move to equalize is queen e6. And the point is that here after e3 you have this b3 square for your knight, and after bishop e1 comes the move a5, and black has equalized here. In fact, is even slightly better. But rook c8 was incorrect, and after e3, knight to b5, Vishy felt that his knight was stable there on b5 square, which is why he went into this line. But after h5, g5, queen a4, it so happened that in this position, the only side who can play for a win is white. But Anand felt like, the bishop blocking the a file, the rook on the c file, it should not be so bad. And actually his decision turned out to be quite correct, because he managed to hold a draw pretty effortlessly. By the way, here's a very nice move. After bishop f5, you play e6. What should white play here? Let's try to think. Yes, the move is d5. And if you take with the queen, c8 is hanging. If you take with the pawn, your rook is hanging. So this works out. And queen c5 is met with bishop h3 still. So very nice move. But Vishy is not going to fall for such tricks. Bishop d3, rook c3. And here in this position, the players repeated and a draw was agreed. So we moved on to Armageddon. And in the Armageddon, Anish had white pieces and 10 minutes. And Vishy had black pieces and 7 minutes, and draw was okay for Anand, but not for Anish. So Anish opens the game with b3. He plays, very interestingly, he plays the move b3 in this position. It is something which Anish has openly made fun of, because Adhiban has made a course on it, but he decides to use it because he doesn't want to go into any specific preparation and just wants a game. Anand goes d5, bishop b2, c5, e3, and now an interesting move, a6, stopping all bishop b5 plans for white. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop e2, and here Vishy goes knight f6, castles d4, blocking the bishop. Maybe Anish could have considered starting with d4 here, quite possible, but he went castles d4, rook e1, g6, take, and here he played the move c3. Black had a very strong move here, which was d3, bishop f1, bg7, and just look at this concept. After rook e3, you give up that pawn. So after rook d3, you go knight d5, and now there's no stopping bishop f5 getting really nice counterplay in this position, and I think a very good position for black. But okay, he took d takes c3 here, because that's what was needed for the tournament situation. Draw is enough. e4, castles, knight d2, bishop f5, knight f1. Here Anand could have gone knight e4, which would have again given him a very comfortable edge. But he went rook d8, knight e3, and knight to d7. Bishop takes, king takes, knight d4, and this is where Vishy starts playing beautifully. Black to play, what would you do? So the initial reaction always is to take, and then put your knight on c5. But then after something like rook a d1, white has control of the d file, and it doesn't look like a position very stable. Like you could try something like rook d4 and a5. But let's say after take, rook d5, you are a bit worried. c5 is hanging, f5 is hanging. Yes, you can get counterplay here with rook d8, or let's say start with e6 and rook d8. But still, Vishy played it very cleanly. He played here bishop e4. Excellent move. f3. And what do you do next? Black to play. Yeah, you move your knight here. Basically, you move this knight to a good square, and knight c5 makes a lot of sense because now this knight is attacked from the rook and the knight. And if you take on c6, I can pull my bishop back. So knight c2, bishop c2, knight c2. a5 was played. King f2, rook d1, and in came the move. Very powerful move again. Knight v4. Excellent chess by Anand. And if you see this position, he's totally better. a2 is weak. b6 is coming. e6, king f6. Dark square domination. Knight is beautifully placed. Cannot be moved. Bishop is not so well placed. And Anand could already have started playing for a win. But he decided to, just keep playing. Draw is enough. g5. It's a very easy position to play. Even though he had like couple of minutes, he's never really in danger. Here, he could have also played knight e4, takes, and he's winning this endgame because after rook e2, check, and e3, black is completely under control. But he went rook d1. He didn't have to do much. He was just moving back and forth. And at this point, if you see in the picture above, Anand and Anish agreed to a draw with a smile on the face. And Vishy had won this battle against Anish Giri, which is amazing. After beating Magnus, he's now beaten Anish. One with white pieces in the Armageddon, one with black, showing great resilience. And Anish, as always, was very quick to tweet here saying, "I'm too old for this quick Armageddon games." What a nice tweet by Anish, even after losing, playing an opponent who's 24 years elder to him, but Vishy showing his class and showing what a champion that he is. And these are the standings right now in the tournament. Carlsen leading with 12 and a half after beating Mamedyarov, who blundered in the end, but Anand just 1 point behind and 1.5 points ahead of Wesley. So this promises to be a very exciting finish in the last 3 rounds. I'll bring you all the coverage. This is Sagar Shah signing off. Bye bye.